Welcome to lecture 32 of the lecture series, Psychology of Well-being. In this lecture, we are going to look at how the new liberal policies accepted by many countries of the world, directly or indirectly, have been shaping well-being of people, particularly of women, in several countries of the world. And in today's lecture, we are going to look at the case of South Africa, particularly how women have been facing the brunt of taking care of child as an indirect burden on them as a single person in the family, as the only person in the family, rather, to take care of the child's hunger or the child's growth. Well, we are going to begin with looking at the issues of well-being for women in the neoliberal times. Then we'll be looking at the study by Kruger and Lawrence, who have talked about, we have gone into the details with the help of their decade-long study on the mother's distress in South Africa in the neoliberal times, and through that, the suffering that may be associated with gender roles in the neoliberal times amongst the mothers will be looked into, and then implications of the findings. Well, issues of well-being for women in neoliberal times. Scholars of gender studies have been concerned about how meaningless diagnostic categories such as depression can be for women living particularly in low-income or developing countries. Such diagnostic categories might often camouflage atrocious socioeconomic and political context in which they live. This necessitates a study of such women focusing on subjective experiences of their emotional distress. Well, the study by Kruger and Lawrence was taken up in a low-income colored mothers of Western Cape province of South Africa. They lived in the suburban areas where manual work, farm labor, domestic work, and factory work in the neighboring towns was a common occupation. This community was marked by problems of unemployment, poverty, violence, drug abuse, health problems, and relational issues. These problems are rooted in the development process, chiefly guided by capitalist or neoliberal notions of development. Now, what are the chief characteristics of neoliberal policies? Well, we have already seen this in our lecture 2 in the beginning of the lecture series or the course. The first one is reduction in public expenditure by the government, especially for the care sector such as health, education, and elder care. Privatization for a short-term infusion of cash, government sold off precious public assets, areas of social life that had been outside the profit motive, such as water delivery, were commodified, and selling of dreams that the present is largely eternal and that what you experience now is in your class is largely what your children and grandchildren shall experience. Technology will advance and things will be better, but your own place in the class structure, calcified by differences of social hierarchy, will remain. So these are the words of Vijay Prashad in 2020 article in Economic and Political Weekly, from where we have derived our understanding of characteristic features of neoliberal policies that have been focusing on these important elements that can create challenges for, particularly for the vulnerable groups like poor mothers or poor people. And particularly here we are looking at gender issues within new liberal context. So how that shapes the well-being of the mother or creates challenges or the struggles for well-being for the for such mothers. So data collection and analysis got initiated with the help of semi-structured interviews being the primary mode of data collection. Interviews being conducted in local language, Afrikaans, that were translated into English for further analysis. Furthermore, observations during ethnographic fieldwork and clinical interviews for diagnostic purpose by the researchers were also used as additional sources of data. Analysis was conducted using constructivist grounded theory approach. And here are the important insights with the help of some categories that emerged from qualitative data analysis. First one being the hunger of children being an important concern, and the child most of the time crying, "Mummy, I am hungry." Rather than discussing the issues related to poor socioeconomic conditions, for example, inadequate housing or financial resources, the participants accentuated in the sharing emotional distress owing to the hungry children. A 41-year-old unemployed participant with three children stated, and her name was Wayne, or Don moans, he wants food. Now, Don is again her son. He wants food. Hilda moans, she wants food. Ashleen moans, she wants food. Mommy, I'm hungry. And everybody comes to me, everybody asks me, they moan at me. They surely, everything becomes too much for me because everybody moans at me. Then my children did not have such a hard time and were hungry. Now only now the other night we went to bed for 3 evenings without food. Like when they moan about things which I don't have or which I cannot provide them with. Well, that's poverty, and in the background, neoliberalism looms large. Shame and guilt, I blame myself. That's what the mothers have to say. So the participants also stated their feeling of guilt and shame owing to their children's hunger. Flory shared. Flory says, "It almost feels as if I feel now I feel guilty. I cannot give. I really want help the children, but there is nothing I cannot give to them because I don't really have it. Financially, I don't have enough." Wayne also blamed herself while describing her guilt and shame. She said, slowly moving her head while she's thinking, "Yes, like the whole situation, the whole problem I take on me. Because I think if things were perhaps different, if I perhaps could work and all the things, then we won't have stayed in such a place, then it would not have been so hard for my children and they would not be so hungry." So I blame myself most of the time. I blame myself for my circumstances, my situation, and that makes it difficult for me. It makes me very inferior, feel very, very inferior. It makes me feel as if I am a zero. A zero, I don't exist. A zero, I am nothing. I am a nothing. Yes. This makes me feel very, very inferior. And if I sometimes sit still and think I don't perhaps have what my two sisters have or so, and I have the tendency to say I'm nothing because I don't have anything in life, and tears starting to show and voice trembling. That is how it feels to me right now. Anger and aggression, I become flipping angry, so to speak. Experiences of frustration and aggression were also common in the participants. Leila, part-time employed woman with two children, had to say this. And these are things I cannot handle. I become flipping angry, so to speak, only for the fact the children does not go to anybody else, comes to me. Many a times such anger is displaced on the hungry children themselves. One of the participants mentioned, he makes coffee all the time and this stresses me because it's sugar and such stuff is expensive. And now his friends also sit there and he makes coffee for them. I just hit him and with a stick in front of his friends and I take the coffee and I pour it down the sink. See, everything is frustrations that comes inside of me. I just take that things. I will take the bread, then I just threw it for the dog. He already ate. Don't take again and eat. Ask me, and he eats. That child eats continuously. I must lock everything. Enomi, I don't know what to do anymore. Some participants also felt dejected about their extremely challenging circumstances. Leila mentioned, and these are things that I cannot handle, but unfortunately, I am just a human being and I can't carry everybody's things. I sometimes don't know what to. I don't know what to do anymore with my situation, my circumstances. Imperative to care, mummy just need to care. The pressure was typically on the mothers to, as it were, it was only they rather than other family member who were taken to be responsible for feeding children. And such a responsibility was also mentioned or thought of as important by the children themselves. Leila mentioned only for the fact that the child goes to no one else, only comes to me. Mommy, there is no sugar today. Mommy, there is nothing of this. And mommy just has to provide. I cannot buy you food. I have what I have. I must use so sparingly now. Another participant mentioned, you come to me, you must eat. You come to me, mommy is there, bread, mommy is there, sugar, mommy is there, coffee. Now, these have been some of the experiences of these mother being blamed, being taken to be responsible to take care of the child, and no other person, including husband, including father of the children, are taken responsible for the child care or providing them with basic necessities of life like food. No other family member except the mother. So, implications for promotion of well being among such mothers. The depressed women interviewed in the study have gone through emotional distress owing to being held responsible to feed their hungry children. That's important to be learned. So, what are the cause of their distress? Such distress include experiences of depression such as sadness, hopelessness, and guilt. However, these also consisted of experiences of anxiety, anger, and anomie that are generally not associated with depression as a diagnostic category. In general, neoliberal discourses where women are held responsible for taking care of children, specifically feeding hungry children. In such discourses, women are expected to have what some have termed traditional autonomy, an autonomy which is already woven into relationships and forms of social belonging, and which points to the importance of being able to deal with everyday emergencies and sustaining the social world. So, this is something that Kruger and Lawrence have to say that how neoliberalism imposes silently a sense of autonomy that individually the person, and here the mother, has to be responsible for providing everything for the child, and that is one of the root causes of distress for these mothers. Thus, rather than focusing on just individual or community based interventions as is usually done in psychiatry or clinical psychology, development policies also need to be addressed to promote well being and mental health of such women affected by the neoliberal times that we live our lives in. And such was the case of these poor colored South African women living in the suburban areas of South Africa. Otherwise, such structurally induced distress may routinely be taken as mental disorder. For example, the unbearable rebuke of hungry children can be thought of as evoking a kind of madness in low income mothers. Thank you very much.